Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for all your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy Guns never fail. What's up, fantasy football fans? My name is JT Magnum. We're back again for another top 10. This one's the top 10 busts. Our top 10 busts of this year, who we think are going to just crap it out in fantasy football. So let's get into it. Siggy, what's your 10 through 6 for the busts?
I got Latavius Murray, Doug Martin, Jordy Nelson, Tyler Eifert, and Thomas Rawls to round up 10 through 5. And now I'm going to talk about Nelson. Nelson is coming off a major knee injury, and there isn't that many people, especially not somebody that relies on cuts like he does, that comes back healthy right away, in 1 year. Obviously, I think Adrian Peterson is the exception. He came back pretty strong. I just think that somebody that relies so much on his route running is going to have a little bit of problems being back to his former self. And not to say that, he's not somebody that's going to have a good year, but as I have him as bust because I think his draft position, everybody's drafting him top 5 wide receiver in all the fantasy drafts I've done so far. And those expectations are astronomical considering he's coming back from a major injury. I have him more as a top 15 type of production. He might still get 1,000 yards and maybe 6 touchdowns, which is still good, but as far as his average draft position, though, not anywhere what you want from a 5 pick, top 5 pick. So that's why I have him more as a bust. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have 1,000 yards. And I mean, that just goes back to being more of it's going to take a couple of years before he's really back to himself.
Yeah, usually those ACL injuries take a couple years. And just for a side note, when we say bust, we mean they're going to have a worse year than they had the year before. And in Nelson's case, 2 years before, because obviously he didn't play last year. But my 10 through 6 are Justin Forsett, Jay Ajayi, Steve Smith Sr., Matt Forte, and Matthew Stafford. And I'll talk about Jay Ajayi. The reason why I have him in there is 2 words, and it's called Arian Foster. Arian Foster, if he's back to normal and he's back to the player that he can be, Jay Ajayi, he's going to basically be the spellback and maybe the goal line back if he's lucky. But Arian Foster is one of those guys that he's the goal line back too, because he always finds his way into the end zone, whether it be catching or running, and Arian Foster does that well. So Jay Ajayi, he's been one of those things where everybody's so high on him, and then all of a sudden the Dolphins sign Arian Foster, and even I labeled him as a bust before then because I didn't think that Dolphins would even run that much to even have him. And on top of that, he's been a little bit injury prone, so I don't see him as doing any bit of well this year. And I would actually stay away from him in the draft if you could, unless of course Arian Foster goes down and you need to pick up a guy. But still, I don't think he's going to do that well. What's your 5 through 1?
I have Jordan Matthews, Ted Ginn Jr., there's Ted Ginn, Devontae Freeman, Doug Baldwin, and Jeremy Langford. Now I'm going to talk about Baldwin. He had a great season last year. I mean, statistically, 14 touchdowns, 1,300 yards receiving. There's just no way that I think he can duplicate that kind of production. So, again, another person that's being drafted pretty high based on expectations that, the Seattle offense is going to be more throw happy because of the retirement of Marshawn Lynch. I just don't think with Jimmy Graham back, he's going to be the red zone target more so. So if you look at 14 touchdowns that Baldwin got, and then on top of that, the rise in production of Tyler Lockett, I think that it just means that he's going to be somebody that might see his touchdown production cut in half, realistically. So that right there, if I tell you your fantasy top wide receiver is going to have a 50% drop in touchdowns, you're going to be like, whoa, well, I won't draft him then. So that's the reason why I have Doug Baldwin as a bust.
Yeah, my 5 through 1 are Amir Abdullah, Isaiah Crowell, Jeremy Langford, and Jimmy Graham and Alan Hurns. And I'll talk about Alan Hurns. A lot of people are not picking him as well. A lot of people are talking about him not being so. And then there's some that argue and say, oh, he was so amazing last year, he's only going to do better. The thing is, you have Allen Robinson on that team. You have TJ Yeldon out of the backfield, along with Chris Ivory, the bruiser. And you have Julius Thomas. There's so many weapons to go around. Last year, a lot of them were either banged up or not healthy. And now that you got Chris Ivory and Allen Robinson, Chris Ivory and TJ Yeldon running the ball, there's going to be a lot less passing. And another thing, Jacksonville's defense is a lot. I know. Jacksonville's defense is supposedly improved. And if they're improved, that means they're in games instead of out of games. Last year, they were out of a lot of games, so they had to pass the ball a lot. So I see Allen Hurns dropping in production, which is what he had 1,000-something yards last year and 10 touchdowns, I believe. I see that going down. I see that going downhill compared to uphill in that. And probably not down by much, but that's still enough to label him a bust because he's not going to do better than last year. But Siggy doesn't think so.
I think Blake Bortles is going to throw 50 times a game. I don't think Chris Ivory is going to change the philosophy.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Oh, you're mad because you're a Jets fan and Chris Ivory's on that team? I just realized that.
No. Don't get me wrong. I got Matt Forte. Even though you had Matt Forte as a bust, he can only do better than last year, right, Forte? Because he had a horrible year last year.
Yeah, Forte, I have him as a bust only because of his age and because of his. I don't know. I just don't see him doing anything, and I see Bilal Powell being kind of the man there. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
You never know. Forte could shock me. All right, guys. For Fantasy Football Fiends, any questions you have or any comments you want to leave, don't forget to put them on there. Label who you think. Tell me who you think is going to be the bust. Let us know what you think of ours. And, that's it. So for Fantasy Football Fiends, JT Magnum and Siggy Guns, we out. Peace, y'all.